What would you do to protect what you love?
You may just have to find out.
Welcome back to our channel, Atma Occult,
where we compile useful information from classical occult traditions to help you get more out of life.
Today we are going to be talking about a really important upcoming day. There is a conjunction of Venus and Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So this is going to be great information so that you can kind of help prepare yourself and just understand what is going on right like now in the stars and how it could affect you and the rest of the world.
Be sure to watch all the way till the end of this video to hear our tips for how you might be able to protect yourself and your loved ones from this astrological event.
Let's get into it. This conjunction will be taking place on Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. Central Standard Time for US. So we're going to have Venus conjunct with Saturn at exactly 3 degrees, 0 minutes, and 52 seconds in the sign of Pisces. So this is what's going to be real. This is happening in the stars exactly at this moment, okay? It's also going to be occurring in the Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Venus transiting over Saturn is not an unusual event. It happens. However, there's many other astrological factors that make this particular conjunction very unique and quite intense.
So some of these factors include the moon almost within 1 degree of Rahu in the same sign and nakshatra, Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, at the moment of this conjunction, with the moon being fairly dark at this moment. So I think it's going to be Krishna Dwadashi. I think it's going to be, that would be the 12th day of the waning phase of the moon. So that's going to be a fairly dark, meaning a fairly weak moon, sitting with Rahu, which is kind of an affliction. Mercury is very close to its exact degree of debilitation in the same sign. So it's, I think, at 13 degrees something minutes, and the debilitation is 15 degrees.
Yeah.
However, it's not in Purva Bhadrapada, but it's still happening in the same sign with this Venus-Saturn conjunction taking place. Venus, previously, leading up to this, had to transit over Rahu just a few days before, and then it's going to be hemmed between Rahu and Saturn leading up to this conjunction, so that's building up the intensity of what this conjunction is going to mean over a few days. And then all of this is taking place less than a month after a solar eclipse took place in the sign of Pisces on March 29th, with all of these planets present in the same sign during the eclipse. So this, a lot of stuff is going to come out with this. So
that solar eclipse, which we have, we put out a video about solar eclipses in general, kind of started this lead up to this crazy cluster of planets in Pisces and a lot of their close conjunctions. So what do all these placements mean? Since all of these planets are going to be in the sign of Pisces, which is the 12th house of the primordial zodiac sign, so the original 12th house, it represents themes such as loss, isolation, confinement, spirituality, unconscious realms, hidden enemies. So planets in the sign of Pisces are often said to create a feeling of being lost, confused, or kind of wanting to escape to another dimension. And then we have the nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada, which is an Ugra, or a ferocious nakshatra. Ferocious. So that just basically means it's not a very pleasantly themed nakshatra. And this nakshatra is often related to extreme experiences of personal transformation. inner purification through penance.
The intensity is kind of piling up on this.
Yeah. Don't fear, we're going to just
We have remedies.
We have remedies, we have tips, so stay till the end like we said, but we're just kind of going through the meanings because it's important to understand. Purva Bhadrapada is actually symbolized by a sword, which represents cutting ties of old life and looking forward to the future. So that could be kind of a good thing. Maybe you're kind of ending something not so great and moving towards something better in the future. It also represents powerful destructive forces which tear away the old to make way for the new through death and rebirth experiences. It doesn't necessarily have to be literal death.
No, not.
But
for most people, it's not going to be that.
But more death, like ending of something.
So Saturn can represent confinement, grief, constraints, or delays. Venus represents love, relationships, wealth, vehicles, and happiness. Rahu represents illusions, deception, or confusion. The moon is going to represent the mind and emotions, and Mercury represents communication and the decision-making power, or the ability to make decisions effectively. So we're going to try to pull all these together to see what could be happening at this moment. So with Venus transiting over Saturn within this intense cluster of planets in the sign of Pisces, this can be a time where your relationship, or whatever it is that you love, that's what Venus represents, whatever you love, is being afflicted by heavy burdens of responsibility and restricted in some way, because that's what Saturn is trying to do. Saturn restricts things. Saturn makes things have to bear a burden. Saturn causes grief and things like that. So, at the same time, our minds will be clouded, and our ability to make decisions and communicate effectively will also be disrupted because of the moon being afflicted by Rahu and that clouds and illusions and smoke and mirrors, and also because of Mercury being very close to its degree of debilitation, so that ability to communicate being affected. At the same time, we may be feeling very lost because of the influence of the sign of Pisces and wanting to escape from all of this intensity, because Pisces represents escaping. So all this stuff is going on here. It's a very intense moment.
And after its conjunction with Rahu on April 20th, Venus will be hemmed between Rahu and Saturn, which are both malefic planets, and Venus is a benefic. So it's kind of in a state of discomfort there. And that's going to increase and build up the tension until Venus finally passes over Saturn on the 24th and slowly starts to relieve some of that pressure after it finally gets over Saturn and kind of just keeps moving. Mercury will leave Pisces, where it is currently debilitated, on May 7th. So that's going to be a little bit of relief for Mercury, which obviously represents a lot of the communication issues that could be happening while it's debilitated. And then Rahu will leave Pisces and enter Aquarius on May 19th. So basically, after April 24th, there will be a slow process of relief on the sign of Pisces and on Venus, and then things will just start to ease up a little bit.
Yeah. Gradually. Easing up of all this stuff related to the sign of Pisces right now.
But the intense day, where it's the most intense, is April 24th at 7:01 p.m. Central Standard Time.
So because the moon is sitting with this cluster of planets, it will be affecting all of our minds and the whole world during this time. Communication will be extremely difficult with anybody, but definitely with your partner or spouse, because Mercury is the 7th lord and involves Venus in this kind of really complicated mess.
So we're going to have K2 also sitting in the 7th house, which could lead to breakups. It could also just be very harmful for a lot of relationships during this time. the best advice is probably don't make any major relationship decisions during this time. It's probably not a very clear time to think with all of the issues with Venus and Mercury, and you don't want to accidentally break up when it's maybe not necessary. So I would, if you're having issues, maybe just wait till and then revisit the topic later on after this ease up on Pisces. So because Jupiter is the Lord of Pisces, Jupiter will be in the 3rd house, which is diplomatic, strategic communication. And that could actually be really helpful at this time to overcome the communication difficulties that will probably be taking effect, or more than likely will.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why Jupiter in this particular moment, it could be the force that could help in many ways. But there is one aspect of Jupiter being in the 3rd house which could create a little bit of a problem, because according to classical texts on Vedic astrology, when a benefic planet is in the 3rd house, which is considered a mildly malefic house and is related to communication and courage and bravery, the benefic influence in that house can create a little bit of cowardice, or a little bit of a feeling of not really being able to muster up the bravery to engage in this particular action that you have to take, or this communication that you have to involve yourself in. And so you may need to push yourself a little bit to overcome that feeling of not really wanting to be courageous in that moment, especially in matters related to communication. And the potential for this taking place, or this kind of theme going on in the moment, is very strong, especially because Jupiter is also the Lagna Lord from the moon in this particular chart of this moment. So Jupiter, being the Lord of the sign of Pisces, goes to the 3rd house, being the Lagna Lord in the 3rd house for this moment. One thing that gives strength to Jupiter and also to Venus in this moment, and the affliction is the heaviest on Venus, with Venus crossing over Saturn, so we're talking about Venus a lot in this video. One thing that gives strength to both of these planets is that they are both sitting in each other's signs. Venus is in the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. And so because of that, they act like they're sitting in their own signs, and they give each other strength. So that can definitely help in this situation. Jupiter is also aspecting the 7th house as the Lagna Lord, and it's in an exchange, which will help protect the relationship matters. So that's another way that Jupiter is helping. So one thing that could take place is that for men that are in a relationship, Jupiter is kind of acting as a protective force in this moment. And so there's a dark cloud coming, Saturn, to go over your spouse or the person that you love. And so to be Jupiter, to embrace the Jupiter archetypes, to be very strategic in your communication, to be benevolent, is something that can be very helpful for men that are in relationships at this moment. You're being called to protect what you love in this moment. You're using the symbolic Jupiterian sword of Purva Bhadrapada to stand in front of Saturn or whatever it is that's coming to try to afflict what it is that you love, and you're trying to benevolently shield that precious cargo from having this dark cloud affect it negatively. So Venus also represents wealth and vehicles or valuable things of any kind. So if you're not in a relationship, or even if you are, the affliction that Saturn could be causing to Venus could also represent things like vehicle repossessions during this moment, or funds being frozen in a bank account or something like that, because Saturn stops things and restricts things. So be very conscious of this and use your communication to overcome any of those potential difficulties.
Yeah, and that could be the very thing to help protect, like you were saying, because communication is going to be really difficult and things will be misunderstood and miscommunicated. So maybe the thing that you can have control over is how you communicate, and just be very aware of it. And that could be what protects, your relationship.
Yeah, especially if that communication is very Jupiterian, like very controlled, very
calm,
strategic, very powerful.
And mostly positive and
positive, yeah.
So another thing that's going on at this moment in time, we have Mars debilitated in the sign of Cancer in the 5th house. And that's going to add some fuel to the fire of this situation, and also adds more potential for conflicts. It's just be aware of, aggression, violence, because Mars is the planet of aggression and violence. It's debilitated, so it's not happy. And do your best. What you can do is do your best to stay calm, centered, balanced, and be aware of others who are not. So if you see someone who is kind of being aggressive or violent, or just you can get that vibe, be aware. This is a time that even if someone's already inclined towards that, it can make them more so. And Purva Bhadrapada can be a time also for unpredictable, fierce events that can cause destruction. So that's just another thing that you should be aware of. Let's, of course, always hope for peace and safety of everyone, but there are certain astrological times where violence can be more probable. So this is one of those times, and just everyone should do their part to mitigate. So what this is going to mean for every individual, the intensity of this conjunction will have to do with the matters of the house in which sign Pisces is placed in your birth chart from your ascendant. So if you're not sure, visit our website.
We have a free birth chart calculator.
Free birth chart calculator, and we can link a video on how to use it to this description, and then you can find out. But wherever Pisces is in your chart is how this will affect you. Okay, so for example, if you are a Sagittarius ascendant, Pisces will be your 4th house. So all of these stressful events will have something, or could have something to do with the 4th house signification, such as your actual home, your house, your living situation, vehicles, your psychological security, and of course there's a number of other things the 4th house represents.
Mother.
But your mother, you could get in a fight with your mom at this time. So just be aware. It just depends where Pisces is in your chart. So check that out.
Yeah, so a couple more quick examples of this are if you're a Libra ascendant, Pisces is going to be in your 6th house. So all of this chaos could have something to do with enemies, debts, or litigations. Also, if you're a Gemini ascendant, these planets would be collecting in your 10th house. So something could take place in your career or with your boss in the workplace. So you can see how we're kind of just very quickly seeing where does Pisces fall and what does that house represent.
Yeah.
And you can kind of take it from there and see, okay, it's happening in this house, so it may have something to do with this area of my life.
Yeah, and the more you're aware, the more you can protect yourself from any possible effects, So this is all happening on a Thursday. Of course, it might be different for your time zone, but Central Standard Time US, it's on a Thursday. During Jupiter's nakshatra, which Jupiter's the ruler of Purva Bhadrapada. And this conjunction's happening within Jupiter's nakshatra, okay? So Jupiter mantras and remedies would be great to help mitigate any potential negative effects. And we've got you covered. Linked to our description, we've got a Jupiter mantra. Listen to it, chant along with it. It will help mitigate some of the effects. Jupiter and everything that planet brings, for example, self-control, strategic communication. This is going to be the saving grace, like we mentioned before, in this situation. So you want to make Jupiter stronger, and you want to connect it to Jupiter. And one of the best ways to do that is with mantras. So Jupiter can help give you control over the anger and the ferociousness of this time, which is, very possible because there is definitely potential chaos with that debilitation of Mars, who's angry and looking to lash out a bit.
Yeah. So one positive thing that's happening with this situation, this conjunction, is that this transit of Venus over Saturn will create a planetary war between Venus and Saturn, because they will be in the same degree. But Venus always wins all planetary wars because it is the brightest planet out of the planets that can get involved in planetary wars. It is also exalted and in an exchange with Jupiter, highlighting the positivity that Venus has a high chance, of exiting this situation safely without taking too much damage. So Venus is kind of being protected in many ways in this situation. So it may be a really difficult moment to deal with, a difficult day or period of time to deal with, but especially with remedies, we can probably get through it without getting too negatively affected.
And it could be much worse. So, Venus is, in pretty good condition. Just there's
being exalted and all that. Yeah.
There's just a lot going on, though.
There's a lot going on. So Venus mantras are also really good to do as well during this time to protect Venus. And if you're doing any kind of mantra as a remedy for this situation, it can be good to start the remedies now, so you can kind of, in any mantra sadhana, any mantra remedy, you build up the Shakti of the mantra, you build up the energy of the mantra in your body and your consciousness over time. So if you start now, it builds up that Venus or that Jupiter energy, so that by the time that this difficult conjunction takes place, you have more of an ability to protect yourself.
You're more connected with the planet. So we'll definitely also link the Venus mantra. So we hope this advice helps you protect what you love during this potential chaotic and negative time with all the collection of planets in Pisces. And be sure, again, please give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss any of our videos. And leave us a comment.
Let us know if you liked our interpretation of what this conjunction of planets might bring in everyone's life. Or let us know if you have anything to add that you noticed about this conjunction that might be helpful for everyone to know, to look out for during this time.
And if you ever want to know more about your individual birth chart, visit us at atmaoccult.com.